Mark always sends me the dopest beats. Sometimes it takes me a minute to find the right groove to play with them. I usually try a variety of ideas out and through trial and error find the right sounds. It's not always easy to come up with original ideas on the spot, and writer's block can be very real.
I feel like songs are happening at different times at different places, and they're not all always finished chronologically from start to finish. And sometimes there's other songs that happen in between writing one song.
Los Coulters usually have a lot of songs cooking at once. Sometimes some take much longer to come to fruition.
It's really helpful to have at least one person to bounce ideas off with, especially if they have a lot of knowledge about the genre that you're writing in, or if they're in your band, you know, they have an investment.
Jamming with the band is a great way to work out and solidify ideas.
And I always have my phone on me, and technology is so great now that you have a recorder on you at all times. So when I have an idea or something, I'll stop the car, stop what I'm doing, sit down, record it real quick, and then later when I have a chance, go down, try to work it out, try to flesh it out a little bit.
If you're stumped on what to write, don't rule out turning to technology to help. Before I start composing and recording to Mark's beats, let's spend some time with some new music apps that are free on the iOS. Everyone is familiar with some of the basic apps for listening to music, such as Pandora, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, TuneIn, and TikTok, and many of you are familiar with free music creation apps such as GarageBand. Our list covers some of the more creative apps out there to get your brain in gear and to think about music differently. Some of these music generation games are in the vein of Nintendo's famous Electroplankton, while others are their own take on visualizing music in new abstract ways, far different from sheet music. With the recent success of games like Cadence of Hyrule and Crypt of the Necrodancer, music games have come a long way since DDR. Let's count down the top 10.
10.
Simple, clean, and intuitive, Medley by Medley Labs has nice loops and a MIDI loop designer. It's more of a toy than a professional tool, but if you needed to jot down a riff that had multiple instruments, it will work.
9.
Phase Rings by Metatone is more of a meditative gong app than a rhythmic music maker. The type of circles you do on wine glasses to make them ring type of thing.
8.
Synth 1 by AudioKit is a true free instrument synthesizer. This one is on the list for being a powerful and useful tool with an easy-to-use interface. This app would be even better on an iPad with decent speakers. Synth 1 is a full MIDI synthesizer with all sorts of arpeggiators and variables, and it's really fun to play.
7.
In at number 7 is actually a collection of percussion apps by Kolb. Real Drum, Real Percussion, Tabla, and Reggaeton Pads all offer easy ways to make great beats. Most of their apps feature an attractive drum kit that you can play on, or an electric pad in the case of Reggaeton Pads.
6.
Concentric by Jeff Holtzkinner is a strange music maker. Concentric forces you to think about rhythms in a different way. It is a really creative way to shift through interconnected yet diverse rhythms. It could help you plan out a time signature change in a composition. While it's not easy to just write and control the drum beats you want, it is an interesting visualization of percussion rhythms. With a little bit of work, I got a dembow beat going.
5.
Microjam by Charles Martin is a charming gem. A cute Nintendo-style short drawing app that turns what you draw or write into sounds. The sounds are pitch bent and changed by how and where you draw. This is a fun and creative mix of audio and visual. There's a social component to this app where you can collaborate with other artists by posting your sounds to a message board. This social collaborative aspect is a nice feature that other apps lack.
4.
Dandy by Stefan Hepper is a folksy indie app that harkens back to the early days of Macintosh. The hand-drawn stylized interface is similar to speed-controlled tape loops, giving the whole app a retro feel. It's a fun music creator with different effects that make it an easy favorite.
3.
Pixis Minor by Timothy J. Barraclough of Flora Creative is simple but really, really fun. The app has a variety of sounds. You draw on a grid with various notes, volumes, and velocities. You basically draw looped constellations that play melodies, and there's tons of customization.
2.
Mono Vista by Coffee Shop LLC is one of my favorite apps I've reviewed. It's more in the category of experimental music maker or music game than an instrument. It's similar to the old iTunes visualizer by interpreting the wave of music as a wave of color. However, here the app allows you to draw into the visualizer with multiple finger touches to change the music. It's not easy to control, or possible, but it's really fun and it makes you think about music in different ways other than just notes on a page. This app is wild. I highly recommend it.
Honorable mentions.
Radio Garden is a variation on TuneIn and other world radio apps. Radio Garden uniquely gives you a 3D globe to explore while hearing the live music. It's a strong visual interface. Speak is a text-to-speech app that is a cut above the rest, from tech student Loic Verral. Speak is cool because it easily allows you to change the speed, style, and reverb variables in a smooth transitioning way. Other text-to-speech apps are always jerky and glitchy, but not Speak. Bird's Nest by Metatone is a strange and original multi-pitched random bird call app with natural backgrounds for input instead of a keyboard, grid, or pad. Very bizarre.
Numero uno.
Sequence by San Francisco-based OK has some similarities to Electroplankton, and that's a good thing. There's tons of customization with the noise-making creatures, and it's fun to tinker with. The sounds have their own behavior. You can click and drag them away and make them quieter, and they might creep back in or wander off. I was able to make some cool rhythms with it. The app has a desktop version available also with additional variables. I highly encourage you to download Sequence. Alright, let's get to making music.
Synth bass.
After getting a drum track, I usually start by adding bass.
Not everyone plays bass on a real bass. From the Doors to Los Cumpleaños, many use a synth keyboard for high-fidelity bass when performing or recording. The default bass instruments that come with GarageBand are nice, but they don't offer much of a commercial sound. There are a few tactics you can use to beef up the bass depending on what style you like. You're going to want to hear the bass clearly on any listening device, from an iPhone to large subwoofer speakers. You don't want it inaudible or blowing out windows and eardrums and shaking trunks. Or maybe you do. Find an appropriate decibel range that just dips into the red. Use equalizers to draw out a bass's volume or shift it into a higher frequency to be heard clearly. You should test your bass early on in headphones, a big speaker, and a phone to make sure it's not too loud or too soft across all devices. Now, when designing bass, I like to layer several on top of each other to get exactly the right texture and sound that I want. Also, if you just go with presets, it will sound like a preset and generic. Similar to using a color right out of the tube for a painting, you should always mix it with something to make it uniquely your own. Don't look only at bass instruments, as any instrument can be played in the bass octave range. So we have these two here, let's just put them together. Different songs need different styles of bass also. Whether your song is soft and acoustic or loud and electronic, the choice will be very different. Even different electronic songs need either short, punchy bass bumps to cut through other instruments or longer grinding notes. A single song may need multiple styles as the mood changes and progresses. It's always good to use a compressor or two on any track, especially bass. I really enjoy Rough Rider to give that bass a monster sound. It really puts the fire on the track. Now that we've made a little progress, let's take a break and check out a live show. Chacombo is an amazing, high-energy Afro-Peruvian music and dance group. Chacombo performs traditional music from the coasts of Peru that is more similar to salsa than chicha, Peru's more known major musical export. Their guitars and percussion are rockin', and the vocalists have a booming presence. The dancers were graceful and well choreographed. The synthesizer solo was face-melting and a highlight of the performance.